Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes and I'm delighted to be joined by Kevin McCluskey and Sean Connolly for the halftime bulletin. Lawrence will be joining us also. I'll come to you first, Sean. That's more like it, isn't it?
Yep, good fast pace, closing down, crisp movement, all that sort of stuff. Aberdeen tried to press high at the start and gave up after about 10 minutes when they realised we were on it and we were just going to knock it around them. Some of us threw balls over the top have been great. They've been back. Even the passing into feet to the players in forward positions, like there's not much space, but if you get a great crisp pass and if your first touch is on it, then we're still keeping possession and from those passes. So we're not which in recent games has been kind of bouncing off boys or the pass hasn't been on it. And for me, that the best single action of the whole first half was that Callum McGregor pass for the first goal. That was beautiful.
It was. It absolutely was. We sit here sometimes, Kevin, in the halftime and full-time bulletins and try and pick away as to why we're just not clicking. You know, it's sometimes difficult to figure it out, and we give a wee bit of praise sometimes to our opponents because they're able to stifle us. But then you watch that in that first half, and it's just vintage Ange Celtic, isn't it?
No, it is. It's like we've got our Celtic back now, haven't we? Like these last few games, we've definitely taken an eye off the ball a wee bit, foot off the pedal and what have you. But this is us again. This is Ange. It's a game that matters because it's a game before the cup final, and he's got everybody up for it. We're back firing on all cylinders. As Sean was saying there, the passing's so much crisper than it's been in the last few weeks. You can really tell the difference that it makes with having Taylor and Johnston back in the team because they just bring so much kind of balance to the team. And yeah, this is a fantastic performance so far. It is, as the guys in the commentary have said, it's a performance of champions. We're going out, we're putting on a show tonight, or this afternoon, sorry. And it's been thoroughly enjoyable to watch.
And, you know, it's a wee slip there by Kevin, but that kind of performance will allow a lot of people to go and enjoy their night, Lawrence. It is us back to what we became to expect. You know, I think a massive part comes down to the fullbacks. You know, a lot of the passing movements start there, but there's also the performance of someone like Abada. We were talking about, well, it was Kevin that said, you know, wild card, he's a guy that might get in for the cup final. First half, he's looked really busy, taking guys on, getting balls in. Hatate, right back to the Hatate of old. We spoke, Lawrence, about allowing him to play through a sticky patch of form. Ange did that. This is the result.
I think touched on it, you know, it's a game that matters. We're turning up when it matters. There's cup final positions at stake. And you can see the players, you know, they want to do everything to secure it. The recent, you know, there's been changes. Ange just said it's on him, but there were games that didn't matter. In effect, bounce games. This is guys playing for the place in the cup final, and you know, anyone that's been panicking or worrying that we might be tested, or you know, the other team will be getting some confidence from our performances. And when I say going to be getting any confidence from this performance today, you know, these are guys that are out there to put on a show the day we get the trophy and to ensure that they're starting the cup final.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of talk over the piece where we're not getting the results and we're not really seeing the performances over the last 3 games or so. And we've tried our best to remain balanced. Kevin, you've been on most of the, if not all of the post matches. We've been as balanced as possible, but we certainly weren't on it. We just weren't playing the same kind of football we had become accustomed to. Now, before we get stuck in about the goals, because we can't go through this halftime without mentioning the quality of the goals. What a tifo! Sean seen it before the game. I had to go in the playback to see it standing on the shoulders of giants, and obviously it was much misquoted by Noel Gallagher on the album of a similar name, most often credited to Isaac Newton, but I mean, it's up there with some of the finest tifos I've seen at Celtic Park.
Yeah, and I often wonder like what it's like when you're in one of those tifos. I've not been involved in any that I can remember anyway. And, you know, you can't really see what you're doing. So you're just kind of going on faith, right? That you're you could be some idiot that's wrongly being given a piece of red, and you're just standing there ruining the tifo. So there's a lot. The planning that goes into that's unreal. I think I seen Tom Boyd was out putting the pieces of plastic out on the seats as well. Did I on the Twitter? I think I seen that.
That would not surprise me about Tom Boyd. Every time I see him on his socials, he's doing a cycle for charity, or he's doing something to help the foundation, or some kind of good, good cause. That would not surprise me in the slightest, Sean, if he was out there just mucking in. Absolutely sensational. And of course, there's been some famous ones down the years, Kevin, but that just hit the spot today, didn't it?
It did. It was magnificent. Yeah, I missed it live as well at the time, so I've watched the clips back on Twitter and what have you, and there's kind of the panoramic just spinning round and seeing the whole ground, and it's one of those ones where puts the shivers up the spine, because we're one of the few clubs, I think, that can really pull off a tifo display like that, and it creates it's a brilliant spectacle when you see it. Like Sean says, when you're there, you don't really know what it's like. You're just holding up a bit of paper and kind of hoping for the best, that it looks good. But for us, watching it on the TV and what have you, it's an amazing thing, and we always seem to get it spot on. Like, the message is always right with it, and it's another one that will go down there as being one of the best tifos of all time, probably, until we beat it with the next one.
Exactly, aye. You beat your own good work. I mean, it's like every chair's a pixel, and some clubs just don't get it right, do they? It looks all a bit blurry, and it's sometimes difficult to figure out what it's meant to be. Celtic and the Green Brigade and everybody involved, including Tom Boyd, definitely got it right. Before we get into the goals, Lawrence, handball, no handball? What did you think? It was a quick check.
No handball, I don't think. Yeah, listen, glad that they've went for kind of traditional art rather than abstract postmodernism stuff that we see sometimes in Scotland. That I know there's a meaning there. I just can't figure it out. And maybe they're trying to express something about themselves with the stuff you can't make out. But no handball for me. Yeah,
No.
be great for half normal and service resumed.
Yes, absolutely. Sean?
I disagree, Lawrence. That was a handball offence. That was your cut off is about here, and it was pretty much on his elbow when it's at his hand. What I do agree with, though, is VAR not overturning it, because it wasn't, for me, clear and obvious, even though the referee should have been given it in the first one. If the referee gives it, VAR, again, doesn't overturn it.
I like it. So we've got a resident Dermot Gallagher and a resident Tom Boyd. That's why I came to you, Lawrence. Guess which one you are. But no, that's why
I will take that.
Exactly, treble winning captain. Yes, I've got a lot of time for Tom. Let's have a look then. By the time we open the scoring, Kevin McCluskey, I'll come to you first here. And by the way, unbelievable skill, incredible finish, Taylor assist. We'd had a good maybe 3 chances. Kyogo had a couple of good chances. Starfelt with a header. It felt as though it was coming, but when it came, it was worth the 26-minute wait, wasn't it?
Well, it definitely was. Yeah, like we just took the game to them right from the very first seconds. Like, was it 30 seconds into the game when Johnson plays his ball into the channel and Kyogo pulls the shot wide, and from that moment, you got the feeling this was going to be one of those days when we were going to dominate. All we needed to do was get a goal, and it's been coming. Like you say, Kyogo's had a couple of headers, one of the kind of smaller players in the park, but winning headers and coming close. Starfelt's one. It's a great save, to be fair, because it's down in the corner. And then the goal, something else. But then it's what we've come to expect from both those players. Like, Taylor's done that pass so many times, he finds himself in a bit of space. He looks up, plays the pass, and Kyogo's skill is phenomenal. Again, just to have that awareness of what's going on around him, knowing that if he just cuts it back inside, he creates the space, gets the angle, and it's a brilliant finish. There's no keeper in the world that's saving it, really, when he puts the laces through it from that kind of distance.
There's a way the ball goes, is that there seems to be a kind of a curvature to the ball. It's almost like it swerves, but it swerves up the way. Yeah, when Kyogo does that. He's done it a few times this season. It's an incredible finish. And Lawrence, I've been banging on about this record of only 4 players scoring 32 or more goals a season in the last 20 years for Celtic. Can you remember who the 4 players were?
Griff. Could be Henrik.
Yep.
Wolf. Who else previous to that, mate? I'm not too sure. A 4th.
Oh, I'm going to pass over to Sean.
Chris Commons and was Edward one?
It was actually Oh, I'm going to have to
Musa.
pass that last one. It was Musa. Dembele. So, 26 minutes, Kyogo became the 5th, and he went one even better. 31 minutes into the game. We've not been, I don't think, overcritical of McGregor, but McGregor's been off the boil, Sean, last few games. I mean, most players have been. But, I mean, that's back to the McGregor of old in that first half, isn't it?
One thing he's been great. He's been like all over the place. Good turn, good pass, and dictate. Even if this his first touch passing for like little triangles, like you just catch teams flat-footed when you're doing stuff like that. And one thing that he's doing that he's not been doing, and I want to see more of, is actually getting on at referee. And look, I know I don't want referees to get like abused or anything like that, but when they're doing stuff like letting opposition teams time waste, which is breaking the rules, the reason they're doing that is because they're taking the path of least resistance. So if McGregor's in his ear every time the opposition's time wasting, then it stops being the path of least resistance, and maybe to do something about it. Yeah, because it's driving me nuts. Marley Watkins should technically be red carded because he does this to ask for Starfield to get booked, and that's a yellow card offence. So he should have seen a second yellow for that.
I'm glad that's a yellow card offence. I hate seeing it. I remember it became a thing, and then it kind of filtered into British football, and it just, to outlaw it, the only way you can do it, the only thing you can do rather is make it an offence. So I'm glad it is. It's horrible to see a fellow professional, Kevin, trying to get his, another guy booked. It's no nice to see. And again, it just shows you that they're clutching at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. You hate to see that kind of thing. Any sort of simulation like that, you just want to get it stamped out of the game. And I know there was a drive a wee while ago, a few years ago, where if you were doing the old give the boy a yellow, you'd get the yellow. And then it's drifted out that the refs are not doing it anymore. These things go in phases, I think, because you get it as well. The shirt pulling at a corner for a while was getting clamped down on, everything was a penalty or a free kick, and then they kind of eased back off it again. So, yeah, in terms of today's game, again, Sean, spot on. I think Callum's got to be the one that's leading the protests from our side when those things are going on. And I guess it is kind of getting in the face of the ref a little bit, but letting them know that we're not here to be walked over in these instances. The rules are there. You've got to adhere to them. Aberdeen are going to do their best to stretch it as much as they can, but we need a captain, and I think McGregor's capable of doing it, of standing up to a ref and going, enough's enough. You need to take control of this situation.
Are you going to have me in your lug every single time?
And it's not like the rules just been like whitewashed away, because they've actually added to it, so that like they've making the VAR sign, you can get booked for that as well now. And this 6-second rule for goalkeepers still exists, just doesn't get used, but it does exist still.
So the VAR and the card, that's the equivalent of gesticulating at somebody on the football park. Brilliant, you get booked for it. Mount Kadath, a few things here. Kyogo, obviously, but the fullbacks make a huge difference. I got to agree with that. Johnston is fantastic. Looks like he's never been out. McGregor is also back to his best. Comforting to see that they can just turn it on when needed. This is the thing, Lawrence, I was a wee bit of, if there was a concern, it was about momentum. It was about being in the flow of your normal game. And then, thinking to myself, it's not like a light switch that you can put on and off. And that was my concern. It looks as though today we have got it out of our system. So anybody that's out there who were concerned about the Inverness game, about the Scottish Cup final, this is going to, allay those fears, isn't it? This performance.
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, Jackie was talking about, some players can do it in training grounds, but they can't do it in front of 60,000 when the pressure's on. Today's a wee bit of pressure. You've got a place for the cup final. You get fans expecting a show. The trophies getting delivered, and it's good that the players can raise their game for that. They can do it when it matters.
Yes.
It's all right, toe-to-toe cups, the bragging rights, the Beale League. I believe they've done that.
Toe-to-toe cup.
But
the cabinet makers are still working on that, though, eh? That big job.
It's a weird, the toe-to-toe cup, because he's lost more, toe-to-toe games. You're kind of going, but they've still got the delusion that they've won the toe-to-toe cup. It's bizarre, but
the funniest one I heard was Leek Hun.
What was that? Sorry?
Leek Hun was the funniest one I've heard. It's
constant. And by the way, for me, when you're looking at the mainstream media who buy into all this nonsense, I think that just, their credibility goes down the tubes. I'm going to ask Kevin and Sean, because Lawrence knows the answer. Or you might have gone to Harry Styles by this stage last night, Lawrence. Sorry to drop you in that one. the crowd often ask a number of questions that you expect them to ask. So I would never ask them myself because I know they're going to come in. Who's the best player you've played with? Who's the best player you've played against? And who's the best team if you had a starting 11 of players that you played with at Celtic? Kevin McCluskey, who do you think Jackie's goalkeeper was? Best goalie he played with at Celtic?
Johnny Gould.
Johnny Gould. What about you, Sean?
It must have been Artur Boric, right? He played with.
He missed Boric. He was
Did
away. Yeah, he missed
Who would have
Boric.
been before that? The boy that played in the 5-1 game, Tony Warner.
Tony Warner.
No, now, by the way, not that far off. Lawrence, were you there when this question was asked?
I wasn't, mate, no.
Right,
But
so what do you think? Goldie. He said Broto. There you go. He
Yeah,
actually
Broto.
said the best goalie he played with at Celtic was Broto. There you go. Wee bit of trivia before we go back to the action. 700 plus strong on a live stream. Absolutely phenomenal effort from everybody getting involved. Lawrence, have you spotted something you want to share with us?
Oh, mate. Almost a hat-trick. I'm hoping he's not injured, though.
Abada's off injured.
Kyogo's down, so yeah.
Abada's gone off at half-time. He looked
I'm
like he
going
played up in the first
I'm
half.
going to close the stream before it gets any more negative than that, gentlemen. Okay, thanks everybody for getting involved. We'll see you at full time. Thank you to Kevin, Sean and Lawrence for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.
Cheers.
Cheers, Paul.